You are not weak because of what you lack. You are weak because of what you refuse to let go of. That is the truth most men will never accept. They spend years adding more goals, more habits, more strategies, more knowledge, more tools, more plans, hoping that the next thing they acquire will finally be the thing that changes everything. But it never does. Because the problem was never what you were missing. The problem is what you are still carrying. Think about it. You have been dragging dead weight through every area of your life and calling it normal. Relationships that drain you, but you keep showing up. Habits that weaken you, but you keep repeating. Beliefs about yourself that stopped being true years ago, but you still obey them like law. And every single day, that dead weight costs you energy, focus, time, and peace resources you will never get back. You are running a race with rocks in your pockets and wondering why you are not faster. The most powerful version of you is not hiding behind the next book, the next routine, the next motivational video. He is buried under the things you are too afraid to remove. And today, we are going to dig him out. Not by adding anything new to your life, by subtracting everything that does not belong. 7 things, 7 weights. And once you remove them, the man underneath will be unrecognizable, not because he changed, but because he was finally allowed to stand at his full height. No one added anything to him. The world just stopped crushing him. This is the psychology of subtraction, the dark art of becoming powerful by letting go. And once you see what has been weighing you down, you will never carry it again. The first thing you need to remove is the need for approval. This is the silent killer. Most men do not even realize they have it, because it disguises itself as politeness, as humility, as being a good person. But underneath all of that, the need for approval is a cage. It is the constant, exhausting performance of monitoring how other people perceive you and adjusting yourself accordingly. You soften your opinions so no one gets uncomfortable. You laugh at jokes that are not funny. You say yes when your entire body is screaming no. And every time you do it, you hand a small piece of your identity to someone who did not earn it and will not protect it. Mark Leary at Duke University calls this the sociometer, the idea that self-esteem functions as an internal gauge of social acceptance. When the gauge drops, you feel anxiety, panic, the urge to fix it immediately. When it rises, you feel relief, validation, a brief hit of peace. But here is the trap. As long as your self-worth depends on that gauge, you are not free. You are a thermometer, not a thermostat. You are reacting to the room instead of setting the temperature. Picture this. You are in a meeting. Someone proposes an idea you know is flawed. You see it clearly, but you look around the table and everyone is nodding. So you nod too. Not because you agree, because disagreeing would cost you approval. And you have been trained since childhood to believe that disapproval equals danger. So you stay quiet, you stay safe, and a part of you dies in that silence. Not the first time, not the last, just another small death in a life full of them. Now picture the opposite. The man who speaks his mind and lets the room react however it reacts. He is not cruel. He is not aggressive. He simply refuses to edit himself for comfort. And what happens? Some people are uncomfortable. Some people push back. But every single person in that room respects him. Because authenticity is magnetic. And performance, no matter how polished, is always eventually detected and always eventually rejected. The need for approval does not keep you liked. It keeps you invisible. Because the version of you that people approve of is not you. It is a performance. And performances always end. The only question is whether you end them or they end you. As the philosopher Seneca once wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a great deal of it. And there is no greater waste than spending your life auditioning for people who will never cast you in the role you were born to play." The second thing you need to remove is people who drain you. You already know who they are. You feel it the moment their name appears on your phone. That small tightening in your chest, that micro hesitation before you pick up. They are not all bad people. Some are family. Some are old friends you have known for 20 years. Some are people you once loved deeply, but the effect is the same. Every interaction leaves you lighter in the wrong way, lighter in energy, lighter in motivation, lighter in the belief that your own path matters. Here is what most men get wrong. They think loyalty means endurance. They think being a good man means absorbing whatever is thrown at them and never complaining. They wear exhaustion like a badge. They confuse suffering with strength. But loyalty without boundaries is not loyalty. It is self-destruction dressed in noble clothing. And the man who lets everyone into his life without a filter will eventually have nothing left to give the people who actually deserve it. You do not owe anyone unlimited access to your energy. That is not cruelty. That is the deepest form of self-respect. And the moment you accept that some relationships have an expiration date, not because someone failed, but because you grew and they did not, you will feel a weight lift from your shoulders that you did not even know you were carrying. Not everyone who was there at the beginning is meant to be there at the end, and that is not a tragedy. That is evolution. The tree does not apologize for dropping dead leaves. It drops them because holding on would kill the branches. You are no different. The third thing you need to remove is the addiction to comfort. This one is subtle because comfort feels like safety. It feels like wisdom. It feels like self-care. Your brain tells you that avoiding discomfort is the same as protecting yourself, and for most of human history, it was right. But in the modern world, comfort unchecked becomes the most effective prison ever built because you lock the door from the inside and call it home. You stay in the job that bores you because the salary is predictable. You stay in the routine that numbs you because at least you know what tomorrow looks like. You avoid the conversation, the risk, the rejection, the exposure, not because you cannot handle it, but because not trying feels safer than trying and failing. And year by year, the walls of your comfort zone close in so slowly that you do not notice until you can barely move. The space that once felt like freedom has become a coffin that you furnished and decorated. Roy Baumeister at the University of Queensland has spent decades studying self-regulation and willpower. And one of the most important findings in his research is this: growth requires discomfort, not suffering, not punishment, not grinding yourself into dust, but the deliberate, chosen friction of doing something that your body and brain would rather avoid. The muscle only grows when it is torn. The mind only sharpens when it is challenged. And the man only evolves when he steps into the space that scares him. Picture a man who has not left his hometown in 30 years. Not because he loves it, because he fears what is outside it. He knows every street, every face, every routine. And that familiarity has become his identity. His comfort zone is not a choice. It is a sentence. And he is serving it voluntarily, convinced the whole time that the bars are there to protect him. Now, picture the man who leaves, not recklessly, not without fear, but despite it. He does not know what is coming. He does not have a guarantee. He does not have a backup plan. But he has something more valuable than all of those things combined: the willingness to be uncomfortable in exchange for the possibility of becoming someone new. And that willingness is the beginning of everything. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. And real power consists not in having every comfort, but in needing none of them." The fourth thing you need to remove is your excuses. Every man has a story he tells himself about why he is not where he wants to be. I started too late. I did not have the right connections. I had a bad childhood. The economy, the timing, the circumstances. And some of those things might even be true. Life is not fair. The starting line is not the same for everyone. But here is what is also true. The excuse, no matter how valid, is still keeping you exactly where you are. And it will keep you there for as long as you keep feeding it. An excuse is not an explanation. It is an agreement. Every time you repeat it, you are signing a contract with your own limitations. You are saying, "This is why I cannot, and I accept it." And the more you say it, the more real it becomes. Not because the obstacle got bigger, but because your willingness to face it got smaller. The excuse that was supposed to explain your situation has become the reason for it. The man who removes his excuses does not pretend his circumstances are easy. He does not deny his pain or his past or the unfairness of it all. He simply refuses to let them write his future. He says, yes, this happened. Yes, it was hard. Yes, others had it easier. And no, I will not let any of that be the reason I stop. That is not toxic positivity. That is not pretending everything is fine. That is the most brutally honest thing a man can do. Look at the full weight of his reality, feel it completely, and choose to move forward anyway. Not because it is easy, because the alternative, staying still and blaming the world for it, is a death sentence dressed as a valid excuse. As the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow." Your excuses have been answering the wrong question. They have been telling you how hard the road is. What they never told you is why you need to walk it anyway. The fifth thing you need to remove is overthinking. You have confused thinking with progress. You believe that if you analyze the situation enough, plan enough, consider every possible outcome, research every angle, you will eventually arrive at the perfect decision. But you will not, because the perfect decision does not exist. It never has. And while you are sitting in your head running simulation after simulation, the men who are actually moving are failing, adjusting, learning, and lapping you. Overthinking is not intelligence. It is fear wearing a lab coat. It is anxiety pretending to be preparation. It is your mind's way of protecting you from the possibility of failure by making sure you never begin. And the cruelest part? It feels productive. It feels like you are doing something important. You are researching, you are preparing, you are being smart about it. But you are not. You are standing at the edge of the pool, calculating the water temperature, while everyone else is already swimming. Here is a truth that overthinking will never tell you action creates clarity. Not the other way around. You will never think your way into confidence. You will never plan your way into courage. You have to move first, and the answers reveal themselves on the way. Every man who has ever built something meaningful will tell you the same thing. The first step was taken in complete uncertainty. Always, without exception. The clarity came later. The confidence came later. The step came first. Picture the man who has been planning to start his business for 3 years. He has the spreadsheets. He has the research. He has the business plan revised 4 times. He has read every book on entrepreneurship. What he does not have is a single customer, a single product, a single real-world test. Because he is waiting to feel ready, and he will wait forever. Because readiness is not a feeling that arrives. It is a lie that overthinking tells you to keep you paralyzed. The feeling of readiness comes after the action, never before it. The sixth thing you need to remove is resentment. This is the poison most men carry and never name. You are angry at your father for what he did not give you. Angry at the friend who betrayed you when you needed him most. Angry at the ex who left without explanation. Angry at the system, the world, the sheer unfairness of it all. And you hold that anger like a weapon, believing it protects you, believing it keeps you sharp, believing it means you have standards. But it does not protect you. It does not sharpen you. It makes you heavy, and it makes you stuck in a moment that everyone else has already left. Resentment is not justice. It is a chain that connects you to the person who hurt you long after they have moved on with their life. You think about them. You replay the moment. You rehearse the confrontation you will never have. You rewrite the script where you finally say the perfect thing that destroys them. And they are somewhere eating dinner, laughing with friends, sleeping soundly, not thinking about you at all. You are the only one serving the sentence for their crime. You are the prisoner and the warden and the judge, all at the same time, presiding over a court that will never deliver the verdict you need. Letting go of resentment is not forgiveness for their sake. It is freedom for yours. It is the decision to stop renting space in your mind to people who no longer deserve to live there. And it is one of the hardest things a man will ever do because the anger feels earned. The bitterness feels justified. And it is justified. But justified or not, it is still costing you everything. Your peace, your energy, your ability to love and trust and build without suspicion, poisoning every foundation. As the philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote, how much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it? The original wound may have been their fault, but the ongoing suffering, that is yours, and only you can end it. The seventh thing you need to remove is the old version of yourself. This is the one no one talks about. You have grown. You have changed. You are not the same man you were 5 years ago, 3 years ago, maybe even 6 months ago. But you are still carrying his identity, like an expired passport that you keep presenting at every border. His fears, his limitations, his definition of what you are allowed to want, his ceiling on what you deserve. And every time you try to step into something bigger, his voice pulls you back. Who do you think you are? You are not that kind of person. People like us do not do things like that. That voice is not protecting you. It is haunting you. It is the ghost of a man who no longer exists. And you keep obeying him out of habit, out of loyalty to a version of yourself that has already served his purpose and needs to be released. You would not wear clothes you outgrew at 15, but you are still wearing beliefs you outgrew years ago, and they are suffocating you just as badly. You are not betraying your past by outgrowing it. You are honoring it. Because every struggle, every failure, every moment of pain that older version endured, he endured it so that you could become this. And the greatest disrespect you could pay him is to stay where he was. He fought so you could move forward. Do not insult his sacrifice by standing still. Let him go. Not with anger, not with shame, with gratitude. And then walk into the life that has been waiting for you on the other side of his shadow. Now, I want to tell you about a man who understood the power of removal better than anyone in history. A man who looked at everything the world offered: wealth, status, comfort, reputation, and deliberately, systematically, stripped it all away. Not because he was broken, because he was the most clear-eyed man in the ancient world. And what remained after he removed everything was a kind of power that kings could not buy and armies could not take. His name was Diogenes of Sinope. Diogenes was born into a comfortable life in the Greek city of Sinope around 412 BC. His father was a banker. He had every advantage the ancient world could offer: wealth, status, a clear path to a respectable life. And then he lost it all. He was exiled from his city for defacing currency. Everything he had built, every comfort he had known, stripped away in an instant. Most men would have been destroyed by this. Diogenes was liberated. He arrived in Athens with nothing. No money, no connections, no plan, no safety net. And instead of scrambling to rebuild what he lost, instead of begging for a second chance at the life he used to have, he made a decision that would define the rest of his life. An echo through 25 centuries of philosophy, he decided that nothing was exactly what he needed. Not as a punishment, as a strategy, as the ultimate act of power. He slept in a large ceramic jar in the marketplace. He owned a single cloak, a walking stick, and a bowl until he saw a child drinking water from cupped hands and threw the bowl away too. One less thing to carry, one less dependency, one less chain between him and absolute freedom. The people of Athens thought he was insane. He walked barefoot through the streets. He mocked wealthy men to their faces. He publicly ridiculed politicians and philosophers who preached virtue but lived in luxury. He once carried a lantern through the streets of Athens in broad daylight, and when people asked what he was doing, he said, "I am looking for an honest man." He could not find one, because honesty, in a world built on performance, was the rarest thing of all. He rejected every social convention that most people spent their entire lives chasing: wealth, reputation, status, comfort, approval, all of it, gone, stripped away like dead skin. But here is what they did not understand. Diogenes was not depriving himself. He was not suffering. He was performing the most radical act of self-mastery the ancient world had ever seen. He was removing everything that stood between him and the truth. Every possession he abandoned was a dependency he killed. Every expectation he rejected was a chain he broke. Every comfort he refused was a cage he walked out of. And with each subtraction, he became more powerful. Not powerful in the way that kings are powerful. Powerful in the way that no king could ever be. Because the result was a man that no one could control. Not with money, he did not want it. Not with status, he laughed at it. Not with threats, he had nothing to take. Not with praise, he did not need it. He had achieved what most men spend their entire lives pursuing without ever reaching it. He was completely, utterly, unshakably free. Free from wanting, free from needing, free from performing, free from everything that makes men bend. The most famous story of his life proves this better than any philosophy could. Alexander the Great, the most powerful man on earth at the time, conqueror of nations, commander of armies, came to visit Diogenes. He found him lying on the ground in the sun. Alexander stood over him and said, "I am Alexander the Great. Ask me for anything you wish." Diogenes, without standing, without bowing, without a single flicker of intimidation, looked up and said, "Stand out of my sunlight." Alexander's soldiers were furious. This was an insult to the most powerful man alive, but Alexander himself reportedly said afterward, "If I were not Alexander, I would wish to be Diogenes." The conqueror of the known world envied the man who owned nothing. Because Alexander understood what his soldiers did not. The man who needs nothing from you has more power than the man who can give you everything. Power is not what you possess. Power is what you no longer need. That is the power of subtraction. Not deprivation, not suffering, not asceticism for its own sake. The deliberate, intentional removal of everything that is not essential until what remains is pure, undiluted, unbreakable you. Now picture yourself, not in ancient Athens, right here, right now, in your own life. What if you applied this same principle not to the extreme that Diogenes did, but to the things that are quietly, invisibly, draining your power every single day? What if you stopped answering the phone when the person on the other end only calls to take? What if you stopped performing confidence for people whose opinions do not actually matter to your life? What if you stopped replaying that betrayal from 3 years ago and let the person live in your memory as a lesson instead of a wound? What if you looked at the excuses you have carried for years and said, "This story ends today, not because it was not real, but because I am done letting it write my future"? You do not need to sleep in a ceramic jar. You do not need to throw away your possessions. You do not need to mock kings or walk barefoot through the city. But you do need to look at the weight you are carrying and ask one honest question: how much of this is actually mine? How much of this did I choose? And how much of it have I been holding simply because I was too afraid to put it down, too loyal to let go, or too comfortable to imagine life without it? And this is what I want you to understand. This is the lesson that Diogenes lived and that most men will spend their entire lives avoiding. You do not become powerful by accumulating more. You become powerful by having the courage to remove what weakens you. Every need for approval you release makes your voice louder and your spine straighter. Every draining relationship you end gives your energy back to the people and projects that actually deserve it. Every comfort you are willing to sacrifice expands the territory of your life in ways you cannot predict. Every excuse you drop clears the path ahead, like removing a boulder from a road. Every hour you stop overthinking is an hour you spend actually building. Every resentment you release returns a piece of your soul that you forgot was missing. And every old identity you shed makes room for the man you are becoming, a man that the old you would barely recognize but deeply respect. This is not about losing things. This is about finding yourself underneath all the weight that was never yours to carry. The man beneath the performance. The man beneath the obligations. The man beneath the fear and the excuses and the dead relationships and the outdated beliefs. He has been there the entire time, waiting, ready. You just need to clear the way. And clearing the way does not require more information, more motivation, or more time. It requires honesty. The kind of honesty that most men avoid their entire lives. The honesty to admit what is not working and the courage to remove it. As the philosopher Lao Tzu wrote, "In the pursuit of learning, every day something is acquired. In the pursuit of Tao, every day something is dropped." You have spent enough years acquiring, enough years adding, enough years hoping the next thing you pick up will be the thing that finally makes you complete. It will not. Because you were never incomplete. You were just overloaded. It is time to drop. If you are ready to start, not tomorrow, not next week, not after you finish planning, but now, then look at your life honestly. Pick one thing from this list. Just one. the relationship that drains you, but you keep answering the phone, the excuse you have been repeating so long it has become your identity, the version of yourself you outgrew years ago but keep performing out of fear, the resentment you carry for someone who has already forgotten your name, the comfort that feels like home but functions like a prison. Pick one and remove it, not gradually, not politely, completely. You will feel the loss at first. You will feel the void. That is normal. That is the weight leaving your body. And that void is not emptiness, it is space. Space for something real, something that is actually yours, something that you chose instead of something that was handed to you by default. The man who removes what does not serve him is not heartless. He is not cold. He is the most honest man in the room. He is the man who refuses to lie to himself about what is working and what is not. And that honesty, that willingness to subtract rather than settle, to let go rather than hold on out of fear, is the foundation of every form of power that matters. Not power over others, power over yourself. The power to choose what stays and what goes. The power to design your life instead of inheriting it. The power to look at a full room and walk away if the room is wrong for you. You are enough without the performance. You are enough without the approval. You are enough without the dead weight. You have always been enough. The only thing standing between you and that truth is the pile of things you refuse to set down. And the moment you stop carrying what was never yours, the moment you set down the approval, the dead relationships, the comfort, the excuses, the overthinking, the resentment, and the ghost of who you used to be, everything changes. If this is the man you are ready to become, the one who builds his power through subtraction, not accumulation, then you are already on the path. Subscribe, stay close, because this work does not end with one decision, and neither do you.